let them see. Teach them to see. And then the colors will appear. And for themselves, they will have the aha moments. Oh my, I never knew. Oh my, I never knew. I'm going to take you to a place right now. And if you choose, you can go there with me. And when we go to that place, we're going to stop and I'm going to explain some more. All of this, you would think, is in your mind. Everything that we're going to do would be in your mind. After all, I'm not in front of you. You're not in a real room. Or are you? Come with me. We're going to go to a place, and you're going to vision whatever you wish to. There is a bridge. You're alone. And you're about to cross this bridge. But as you look on the bridge, all you see is a mist. Now, the bridge is a chasm, and it crosses from the known to the unknown. And that chasm is everything you were ever taught. Everything you were ever taught. Because in an old energy, the only teachings you had were the ones from history, the ones from science, the ones from spiritual systems. That's all you had, the best that you could be given in an old energy. But when evolution of consciousness starts to occur, you start to see those things through the mist that you didn't expect. And some of them, dear ones, will be different from anything you were taught. Let's do the first one as you stand at the bridge and look at the mist. How real is this? How real is this right now to you? Well, you'll say, well, I'm in a room, I'm watching a screen, and I'm just enjoying some words. That's one layer. Let me give you another layer of how real is this. Are you in a place, or does the mind do that for you? How strong is your consciousness when it comes to putting you somewhere that you say you can't feel or touch? I want to take you to a hospital bed. Something that has been repeated on this planet over and over and over. Where a person is laying there and they're about ready to take their last breath. Some of them are diseased. Some of them have no energy left. They know they are dying. Over and over, this has happened on this planet. And they do. They do. They take that last breath. And in that 3D room where they are, there is a pronouncement of death. Breathing stops. Heart stops. Now, in that precious place of time that goes in both directions or stretches out or compresses, let me tell you what the consciousness of that individual experiences. Suddenly, they're not in their body. Some of them have said they are outside of their body looking down at themselves, watching the pronouncement. And then they start to realize there's more. And then they start on what could only be called a brief journey. And for a moment, just for a moment, they pull back the curtain and they say what's really there. And for a moment, there is the most amazing, glorious music, light, sound, cheering, family. They're free of pain. They're free of all worry and fear. They have no restraints. They are becoming light, and they see, oh, there's so much more. I am so thankful. And the door slams shut. And they're back in their body. They just had a near-death experience. And if you interview them, they'll say, well, that took a long time because that journey was so amazing, and I remember this and that, but they were only gone for a moment. The heart comes back, the breathing comes back, and then they realize there's no pain, and then they realize the disease is gone. This is not a fantasy I just took you on. This has happened over and over. Books have been written about this. Lectures have been given on it all over the planet. Here's the question. If you talk to them, was it real? Well, the scientists and the doctors will say so. Absolutely. Of course, the disease went away. And to that person, it was the most real experience they'd ever had. They were taken to a place. Can consciousness rewrite reality? Can you be in a place that isn't 3D and still be in the place? Ask them. Ask them. It wouldn't be believable. You would say it was all just an experience, except they were pronounced and the disease went away. You cannot argue with what you see. And they will say, my consciousness took me to a place, and I was there. Well, that's what's going to happen to some of you every time we cross the bridge. I wish to take you to a place that you might not understand. I will make the descriptions. I will tell you what is there. I will invite you to feel and see and be and do. But it's a different paradigm, dear ones. Human beings at this stage in time, a metaphor we've used before, human beings at this stage in time are like an onion. There's many layers to peel. And as you peel the layers, you get to another layer and another layer. And the metaphor stops because when you've had so many layers, you reach a core. And that core would be the human being who is open and ready, like a child, to see the reality of what's around them and begin learning again. Everything you think you know has taken place because when you were a child, you looked around, you saw your parents do this or that, and you become this or that. You see your parents believe this or that, and then you believe this or that. You see how your parents act, and one of two things happen. You either say, I'm going to be like that, or I'm never going to be like that. But they influence, they teach, they create the layers that become you. As you grow up, your culture then gives you more layers. Here is what happens, here's what does not. How can a planet that believes in a monotheistic one God who is grand then go to war over that one grand God? Because the layers of belief then are filled with doctrines, things, here's how it works, the things that they tell you, and they're all different. It's so interesting what the layers then become. Here's what I want to tell you. You're about to walk across the bridge, and the layers are going to be peeled. Here is the decision point for all of you. Come with me or not. And I give you this. There is no negative attribute if you do not come with me. Nothing is going to happen. I'm just telling you that crossing the bridge requires intent to drop the layers. Are you willing to have things rewritten that were told to you by the people you trusted and loved, and it was the best they could do? Are you all right with having all of that slough away? We're going to do this over and over and over, dear ones. This bridge crossing is a metaphor of going into an unknown, multidimensional journey that is real to your consciousness. Some of you will only have an aha after the 12th time or so. And the first times you'll feel good, but that onion has to be peeled more and more and more. This is the way of it. It is a beautiful thing where humans see themselves again as pliable instead of set in stone. What do you believe you can't change? What is it you believe that you say, well, I'll go with you all the way except that one I can't change. That's the one I want you to drop. Because that's probably the one that'll keep you sick. Do you see where this is going? There is a new energy on the other side of the bridge that connects to your soul, not your body, that will then heal your body. And that's always been the way of it. Always. Dear ones, you are designed to live for hundreds of years. How do you like it so far? You are designed to rejuvenate all of yourselves. You are not designed to have disease trick and fool you. That's not the design. And so you might say, well, if it's not the design, why do we have it? And the answer is the layers. In an older energy, you pasted on the rules. A dysfunctional God who would punish you. A dysfunctional family who would somehow torture you and your children after death if you don't do the right thing. That's not the grandness and the beauty of spirit. That's not your soul. That's a children's story, dear ones. How do you feel about that statement? Have I offended you yet? If I have, why don't you stay on this side of the bridge for a while? Until you are willing to go and walk into the mist and discover the circle and discover the 12. That's what I wanted to tell you before you ever even cross over. You're about to go into an energy that is your birthright. I said that in the channel. This was always the design. That with higher consciousness comes improved biology, improved immune systems, longer life, peace on the planet. This should be something that makes sense to you. Come with me. Come a little closer with me as we cross the bridge. The journey is as real as you wish it to be, dear ones, as you walk into a soup that you've never felt before. You're walking into the energy of your soul. This is exactly the energy of the near-death experience. The first thing they experience is connection with their soul. This is proper. This is correct. This is the next evolution for you and your consciousness. The new thing on the planet, as you walk through this mist, is that consciousness is energy. Therefore, there can be energetic things around it. What do you do with energy? You measure it. You compute it. There are formulas of consciousness. It's different from 3D. You don't write the formulas down on a piece of paper. They become paradigms of belief and action. They become that which changes you. It becomes things which heal your body that it sees, almost like conscious homeopathy, where what you think becomes the reality, because there is no question your body will have to obey to the consciousness of the formulas of benevolence of your soul. Up to now, your thinking, even through the pineal, has not been able to cross the bridge completely. There's always been a wall you call the veil, and now you're walking through the mist. I told you what the 12 was. in the channeling. The 12 is a coherence with all that is regarding the structure of creation. The 4s, the 12s, the 3. How many base pairs of DNA do you have, dear ones? What are the calendars like on the planet? 12s, 4s. How many laws of physics are there? The 4. This is the structure of everything that exists, including consciousness. I say that because this is the 12s. You thought there'd be 12 masters, didn't you? Again, that's a three-dimensional concept of outside help, where you would sit perhaps in a circle and meet each master perhaps, or they would come and they would bless you perhaps. Dear ones, this is very viable, and it's the best you could do, and it works even today. But that's not what you're doing now. No. The mist starts to clear, and you see whatever you want to, that is a temple. What does a temple look like to you? It can look any way you think a temple should look, because this temple is yours. You've created it. It should be something that you recognize. And you're about then to go through the door of a temple. Here is another decision point. Do you really, really mean it? Because it might be uncomfortable. You can stay right here for a while. You can sit and enjoy the love that is starting to go into you in a cellular structure as you become multidimensional. Now, before you go into this temple, let me tell you something else that's happening. This is where it gets eye-rolling to almost everyone. Multidimensionality is not linear. Science, when it starts to look at multidimensional things, has to rewrite the ideas of their reality. If you start to study entanglement, for instance, or retrocausality, for instance, or things that are not linear at all, you realize that multidimensional things can be everywhere at the same time, or nowhere. They can also be in two specific places at once. This violates anything you thought. And here you stand on the other side of the bridge, understanding, I am a multidimensional being. My soul is multidimensional. I come across this bridge willingly. I feel the love that is in my soul before I go into this place that will be a portal. Is it real or not? Is it words coming from a speaker, or are you there? Dear ones, this is one of the onion layers that has to be peeled. How real is this for you? Again, ask the one who's come back from death how real it was, and they'll tell you, we did not want to return. We did not want to return. We pulled the curtain. We saw what was there. We saw truth, and we didn't want to come back to this ugly energy, and they did. And to make up for everything, they wanted to tell you all about it, and that's where the books or the movies have come from. You're about ready to pull the curtain and see something you didn't expect. Multidimensionality means that everyone can know what you're doing. Who is everyone? Oh, you'll see. What's the temple look like? Do you realize where it is and where you're going? Do you realize your name is in light on the door? Do you realize that this temple starts to glisten in a very unusual way? It's just got colors you've never seen before. What if you were walking into the temple of your soul? Just an idea. Well, if that's what you're going to do, I encourage you to take off your shoes. Now, you may have done that already, dear ones, and that tells me a lot about the onion that you are and how much has to be peeled away. There are some who have to peel away the thought that this is perhaps more than a meditation. It is. I am taking you to the energy of pure healing, I'm taking you to the energy of longer life. I'm taking you to the energy of spontaneous remission. I'm taking you into the temple. And there haven't been that many humans who have crossed the bridge, dear ones. And if they do, they write books about it. And here you are about to discover it. And many will. Many will. It's time. That's where the evolution is going. Everything that you're doing, appropriate to the max, perhaps leading edge of where you thought. You're not about to meet 12 masters. I'll tell you what the circle is. That's inside the temple. I want you to take off your shoes. Enter if you wish, or not, because there's profound things in this place for you. I'm going to give you a visualization, a picture, and I'm going to use linear things as I have to describe it. How do you explain color to a sightless person? This is me giving you sight, and you can accept it or not. How many times can you cross the bridge or go to this place and perhaps go no further? Because this is not a meditation. This is real. This is you with your soul right now looking at something you didn't know existed. A temple within yourself. A portal within yourself. A multi-dimensional place that lives in your cells as the 24th chromosome pair. Welcome to star stuff, dear ones, because you're about ready to enter and meet the circle. How do you feel? Take a breath. Is this real or not real? Now, for some of you, you're starting to understand that there's a little bit going on inside. If you peeled the onion enough, your cells are starting to jump around a little. You see, they've always known that this was part of the ability of a human. Regeneration of hundreds of years, moving into healing power. They've always known that. They're part of the scenario. They are the DNA. They've known this. How do you think your cellular structure feels? If it had consciousness, if it had an innate smart body, well, it does. How do you think that it felt about you walking on a linear earth? We said this before. You're a Boeing 747 and you've been running up and down the runway for centuries. You didn't know. You couldn't look up to the higher consciousness. You didn't know you could soar and fly. And now you're about to. If you wish. Is this real or not? Take a breath. Your shoes are off and you're walking into the portal. And you realize the portal is a multidimensional metaphoric representation of your soul. I call it a temple because that is the best metaphor we have that you would understand on this earth of something sacred, a building, linear, you go into, you come out of. I'm teaching you sight so you can see the color. If you'll allow it, if the onion will then start to have layers of belief, understanding peeled away. Can you be in an innocence without bias? Can you be in a place that says, I want to know everything. I'm a child and I'm walking in to this place and it's real. Show me what's here, so that I can live longer and get rid of all these anxieties and these fears and what's coming that you don't expect. It's going to be magnificent. As you look upon this place, you may recognize it, for in your reality, there's something called the theater of the round. It's a theater where the stage is in the middle. It's sunken slightly to allow an audience to sit around that is elevated, with stairs leading down then to the stage. I invite you to come down those stairs, walk. And I want you to feel an essence that is going to start to feel two ways for you. Number one, uncomfortable. Number 2, magnificent. Oh, let's add a third. If you have enough layers removed, let's add a third. You remember this energy. Oh, I remember this. I never thought I would feel this again. I remember this, I remember this, I remember this. And you walk down the stairs and you go to that center stage, and there is a chair. And you sit in the chair and you're enveloped in that, the 12-ness, the quad of the energy of all things, that structure of multidimensional energy, and also your consciousness formula. And there you are, ready, sitting in the chair, and you're having a hard time breathing, dear ones, because you are not in 3D right now. Is this real or not? Is this real or not? And then they start to appear. A number of humans, if you wish, entities, if you wish, will come up to that stage, and they're going to wash your feet. First thing they're going to do is wash your feet. How does it feel so far? This is the metaphor for the honoring you're about to get from a circle that you're going to meet. They're going to wash your feet with the tears of their joy that you made it. Not just that humanity went past that which you call the shift, but humanity now is starting to understand the soul part of their biology. And here you sit, willing to peel the onion, willing to be healed of so many things. Not just the body, the consciousness, the fear, the anxiety. And they're washing your feet. How many are washing your feet? It's up to you. Count them if you wish. How long do you want to sit and have your feet washed? It's up to you. Because they'll keep coming, dear ones. They'd all like to wash your feet. And who is it that is doing this? And this is where it gets good. I would like to introduce you to the circle, because right now, appearing around you, all through that, which is the audience that is raised, you will see human after human after human after human, and they have kind of a mist cover their faces, so you don't see much of their faces, but you see who they are. And you can't believe it, because they're all you. Dear ones, welcome to your Akashic record. It's in the soul, dear ones. It's there in the soul. Every single lifetime you have lived on this planet represents one in a seat. This is the circle. They surround you, you with you. And they all want to wash your feet because you made it. You've peeled the onion and you sit there. And when it's time, there's an energy that starts to appear that's always been there. I'm going to give it another color but green. I'm going to say it's the violet color. A color that burns away all fear, doubt, disease, reverses time, all the things that are possible. And when you're ready, in comes this violet spotlight on you on the stage. And you sit and bask in your magnificence of the day. What is it that you've come for? They say. We've washed your feet, you've taken off your shoes for this, and here you are. What is it, they say, that your lineage and your birthright can do for you? All of your past lives are there. You are there. You are the culmination, the graduate one of all that are there. That's why they're washing your feet, and they're saying to you, what is it you came for? And this is where you make the statements. I am that I am. I am a creature of God. Take from me, self, these problems. And you can then start to list them if you wish. There's nothing wrong with that. It's linear, and they know what they are before you start. But it helps you to say them, doesn't it? I don't want to feel the betrayal. I don't want to be anxious. I don't want to fear all my life. I want to know more about my path. I want the healing of my body. I want to just sit and be loved because I'm not loved, you might say. But now you know you are. Now you know you are. How real is this? Come back. You don't have to go through the portal, the door, the bridge. You're now standing and the bridge slowly dissolves. You were there. Oh, you were there, dear one. How real is this to you? To go to a real place created with the formulas of consciousness, a multidimensional place that you can go to whenever you want. I am facilitating this for you, and I will do it every week. The journey will be almost the same, and you'll get used to it. The bridge, the temple, the feet will have a narrative every single time for you of what is going on, and you meet those who you've been. Who better to know you than you? Who better to know you than the Creator, which is in your soul, which is part of who you are? Welcome to the circle of 12 in a way you didn't expect, and go from this place. Know this. It's not an accident that you're here. You didn't come to be a victim of the planet. This is why you came. To know these things. Let the onion be peeled. Let your understanding and your consciousness say, well, I'm having trouble with it, but I'll go for it. And little by little, it will become you. And you'll see this is truth beyond anything you were ever told. It's why you're here. I am Kryon, in love with humanity. And so it is.
Hi everybody, I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon. Hi everybody, I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Not too difficult to come into this place, it is. For in this energy we feel all that has been, and the potentials of what will be in the very chairs that you sit. And the intent for this particular structure was always one of learning about God. And built into the very fabric of the wood was the human consciousness that built it for these reasons. And so there is an honoring that goes here, even before the message, even before the channel, even before the greeting that says, we recognize those who have had the epiphanies in the chairs, who've had the miracles here. And there have been many. Those who have come to worship and have raised their hands, and surging through them, they found the love of God. Well, that's the way it works. It's human intent that is the power. It is what is going on in the human being that makes the difference. Not the organizations, not the doctrines, not the books. Not the structure, not the rules, not the laws. For how are you with you? And how are you with those things called God? Indeed, there are those even now in disbelief of what they are seeing. This is simply the human being, they say, speaking yet again, pretending that he is hooked up to the other side of the veil, where some strange entity is coming in with an affected voice, giving a message for the day. Oh. And if that is you, and if that is your opinion, nothing that I will do will change it. For, dear one, you have free choice to feel or not feel. I know it is being thought now, for you are part of what we call the quantum hologram. A oneness of thought that even humans participate in. We know this. It is how we know what you are thinking, what you are feeling, what you are doing. It is how we know how much you need us. But free choice is the optimum of all of the energies, and so we do not disturb it. We do not prove it when you ask for proof, if you've noticed. Instead, we ask you to turn inward and claim the mastery which we have put there by design, which you know is there intuitively, and which you can claim for the asking. It is a sweet moment, these times, a sweet moment. And the entourage of Kryon is present, along with others. They've been here now for some time. I don't even have to call them in. For the intent of the many, provide for the energy of all. And there are many of you in this time, in this day, who have asked for what we give now. We give freely of the energy of Spirit that may flow into you. All of those who have asked for this will flow into you now with answers and solutions to even the most perplexing of problems. They flow in a way that they will be accessed later. This is what happens in a group such as this, at a time such as this, in an event such as this, is that even during the teaching there is what we call and have called a third language of intelligence that passes to you. You're wondering about the future. Is this right? Is this not right? What should I do now? I know who's here. Am I doing the right thing? I know who's here. How can I get to the next step? I know who's here. For those who want proof that this is what it seems to be, the only way we would say that there is proof, and that is that right now, if you would ask for such a thing, we ask you to get the chills of God. For I will put into you the love that pours into this place from the other side of the veil, that is family, that is reunion, and fill you in a way that you will know that this is real. From the feet to the head to the crown chakra and beyond, you will know, indeed, this is real. It is a precious place that we call home with you. By intent, you have asked for this to be. You've given permission for Kryon to come here for a moment of time in your 3D to present whatever it is. Just to sit and listen. And again we say, you have no idea who came to say whom, you see. For you open the door with your permission, and you give us permission to sit before you, human being, the one doing the work. It's always been that way. Eons have gone by. When we've wished to tell you the things that we now tell you, but we could not, for the energy of the human experience would not understand, would not allow for it. This expression of humanity, which you call your current life, is unique. For it sits upon a grid system which is also new and unique. It speaks to your DNA in ways that allows it to come forward and do things it never would do before.
You have created this when you gave permission for the harmonic convergence. I'll take you some places here. You have no idea, do you, human, who you are? I see the light that is your name. I see layers 4 and 5, as my partner would call them. I see the angels before me, part of this fabric of the universe. I want to tell you about that. It is a good time to answer questions that have been presented by human beings in many ways, in their thoughts, especially in their minds, alone at night. And so we'll call this Questions and Answers Part 1, and I will answer 7 of the most common that have been given to me by those just like you. These answers are for all of you, even the listener. For there is a time out of time that I can tell you about, but that you cannot comprehend, because I am speaking to the ears of many. And to make things even more confusing, I am speaking to the ears of some who are here in another time. And so when you choose to listen to this at another time, that's me talking to you then. But I'm doing it now. Part of that hologram that is a quantum state of timelessness that we speak of. All of you listening, these are your answers too. We'll start with one that is asked, that is cried out in the middle of the night by so many, and not necessarily in this land. Dear God, will there ever be peace? In this land, you would ask of me, Kryon, will there ever be peace on earth? Do we need something like a one world government, for instance? Truly, what are the potentials? It is a good question, and I'm going to answer that the best I can. On the other side of the veil, which we're going to talk to you about in a moment, there are literally thousands of potentials of this planet. And if you could be in this area where they are, not a place, for there is no such thing as a place on the other side of the veil, but in this energy where they are, if you could look at them, the ones that vibrate the highest are the ones that are the most potentially accurate. So it's not a grab bag of futures and you have to close your eyes and take a look at one. No, I'm going to tell you the ones like a giant tarot reading of the planet, the energy of now. I'm going to give you this. The potential for this earth as it moves into 2012 is to plant the seeds of peace. It is before you, no matter what you have done. No matter the wars you have created, no matter the steps and the missteps, the ones that have delayed this or advanced this, you still are on the track. And this track we see as creating peace on this earth. Now it may not be as you would envision, a utopia where everyone is satisfied, where there is no hunger. It will not be and never will be one world government. In the history of the planet, you will never have one world government. It cannot be that way, for the cultures that you support in the billions of you that are here must echo the leadership. Different governments and leadership for different ways. But peace on earth is defined as that time when you all agree to respect the other's principles of existence. Peace on earth is defined as at that time when you do not take advantage of others by force, and one government to another is involved. Peace on earth is a time where there are no active wars. Peace on earth does not mean a utopia. Oh, there will always be disagreements. There will always be hunger. There will be those who need things that others do not have. Always. For you control the planet with free choice. And those things are a result of what some have called the chaos of the same. But peace on earth is when neighbor trades with neighbor, when you need the other one. An intertwining of governments, societies, and countries in ways that is unique. It is dynamic enough to shift with not only the politics but the economics. Look for a moment at an enemy of 50 years ago. I speak now to the Americans in the room of the United States. The enemy that you fought so heavily, that ended in such horror. And you might say, how could we ever have friendship with them? And yet today, your society and theirs is wrapped up in a way that can never be separated. You know that, don't you? For those you call the Japanese, not that long ago were your mortal enemies, those who'd attacked you. And now they are partners, and they are trading partners, and they are friends. And that's only a half a century. Indeed, all things can work together, no matter what they seem like now, to create a peaceful existence. That's peace on earth. An agreement to understand. That's peace on earth. An agreement not to war. That's peace on earth. And when that is achieved, it is a collective consciousness that sticks. And I will tell you, dear human being, when you have that, you'll know it. And that's the potential that we see for you. I've said that for 18 years. And there are so many who say, oh, when, Kryon, when will we create that? You have a good start. You believe it or not, there is energy happening that is going to promote the things to take place in 2008, potentially 2008, potentially, to help all of this. And we said that long ago. That was question number 1. There will be 7. Here is the second question. Kryon, why do we have to have multiple religions on the planet? It doesn't seem to serve us. It doesn't seem to suit us. And which one of them is correct? Why is it there are so many who fight over who God is? Oh, dear ones. The very fact of looking around you and seeing the variety of them should prove what we have been teaching to you. Let me tell you the teaching. Yet again, the human comes into the planet and is born afresh. And yet as the human grows into an adult, there is one driving question, always has been, always will be. Who am I? Who is it that I feel with me? Who is just out of touch that may very well have created me? When I look around the earth and I see the beauty here and the creation here, who made it? Intuitive it is for the human being, driven you are, to find the Creator. And because of the duality, the last thing you do is to look inside. It all comes from some other place, does it not? And the angels and the masters will come in and give you advice, but it's still free choice and your own logic what you do with it. And it creates systems. The religions on your planet have all been created from those who had core questions about who they are. It's not necessarily about the masters who created the religions, who were conveniently there to start them, even those who had their name. No, it stems mostly from the human being's willingness not to collectively come together and do something foolish, but rather to come together and feel the love of God no matter where they are, no matter what the name is on the door, and they do. Know this, dear human being, that no matter what the name is of the religion, God is there. For God, what you call spirit, understands the call and understands the filters in which those humans will accept the answers, and gives them everything that they can accept. Today, you sit here with divine knowledge about your DNA. You know, don't you, where God is. You can't come into this earth as angels and not have a piece of divinity in there. In this day it has been explained to you, it has been taught to you. Now you know. Angel. Your Akash is in there, the human's Akash is in there, the record of all that you've ever been is in there. El Shaddai is in there. Almighty God is in there. Yahweh is in there. And so you might say your search for God is complete and you know where God is and you found it in you. And to a human being it's confusing because you have the duality now in full, the divinity versus the human being. What are you going to do with it? But I just told you that we will present this in whatever way that will allow the filters you have, and you have opened the door to allow truth. The biggest truth that human beings have ever found out is what you sit here knowing today. And that is that the strength of your divinity comes from inside, not from outside. And that you have a direct line to spirit, and you always have. And all humans have known that. That's the answer. Which religion is correct? Let me tell you, they all are correct. For they all search for God, which is the creator of all things. In various stages of appropriateness and ages, they have released themselves into their doctrines, all appropriately, for they served those who needed them at the time. Know this, there are those who need structure. Know this, there are those who need to memorize. Know this, there are those who need to count the beads. And God is with all of them. For they are all family. Know this, they are all loved by God. Know this, just like you. That was question 2. Question 3 is unanswerable, but we'll do it anyway. Dear Kryon, what is it like on the other side of the veil? It may seem insulting for me even to use the analogy. Step into the room lightly, will you? And on the pedestal you'll see the goldfish bowl. Make no sound. And in that bowl you'll find a goldfish. Don't frighten it by moving it. It doesn't understand what's on the other side of the glass. Now bend down and look into that bowl and talk to the fish. And explain to the fish the inner workings of the incandescent light bulb. The fish is the human being. You can't really see through the glass. It distorts everything around you. You made up your mind that on the other side of the glass there is something that feeds you. It must be God, and it must be a fish. After all, what else is there? You see. You make an agreement when you become human to put all of the understanding of interdimensional things away. And it is not in there. It is only when you access the interdimensional self, the higher self, when you take the hand of Spirit, that these things begin to clear up. For when you do that, you are participating in the quantum hologram. But when you're in 3D, you're just like the fish. What is it like on the other side of the veil? There is no such thing as a place. In 3D, you want a place, don't you? You want mansions built with gold, don't you? You want a clock that you can watch. All of those things. Imagine yourself in a rocking chair. And of course, none of those things are there. Imagine this for a moment. A ball of energy 8 meters wide. That it contains all of the energy of creation called you. A piece of God you are, a collective you are, connected to the others in ways that you cannot even imagine now. A ball of energy that has no eyes or ears or senses and yet has all of those. Can see all, can be all, can hear all. The colors are amazing. Interdimensional colors outside of the frequency and the spectrum of anything you can imagine. Beautiful it is. And the music. The things that pass through the veil untouched, that you have laughter, joy, love, and music. And you participate in music on this side of the veil in 3D, the best you can, in a linear fashion, one note at a time. Imagine the symphony when it all plays at once, all of the tunes of history. And it's not discordant. Each one is heard in its entirety, felt in its entirety. It's beautiful. That's what it's like on the other side of the veil. That's where God is. There are no struggles, but there are challenges, and that is why there needs to be things like earth. There are unanswered questions. There is balancing. There is universal creation. What you call the Big Bang wasn't. A clash, you might say, of interdimensional energies, of dimensionality that dissects and bisects to create an entire universe in a minute, in a flash of an instant. Energies which must be decided by planets of free choice like this one. Difficult to explain it is, why you're here. And that's what you do for this universe. And you've done it before. The other side of the veil? Oh, you know soon enough. You always do. Oh, human, there's going to come a time when I see you again. And you'll remember when I said goodbye and now be saying hello. And we'll talk about your time on earth. We'll play the tapes, as it were. Not for judgment, but for celebration. The day when you considered that God might be inside, we'll play that tape, so to speak. The days you celebrated the births of your children, if it's appropriate. And you shared the joy of a love of family when it's appropriate. All of these things are awaiting you on the other side of the veil. It's a workplace. That's what it's like. This entity is called Kryon, and I am part of a collective called Other Things. I am from the bigger family of the Archangel Michael. You call him that. Archangel Michael is not a man. It's not even a male. Kryon is not a man or a male. Kryon is part of the hologram, the compassionate, sweet energy that is balanced in all ways. That was the third question. The fourth question. Kryon, how can there be conflicting channels? Information which one says and another says and still another says, and they all conflict with one another, and yet the sources we all believe in. We believe they're fine human beings. They've given us good things in the past, and yet there they are giving information which clashes. To the best I can, I will now take you to the other side of the veil and give you the answer. We did this 1 week ago, but in another way. We will not involve as many metaphors, but we will still give you the one or two. A human being goes to the other side of the veil and he's presented with an interdimensional energy which does not make him feel good. It takes practice to go there. For the few that do this on a regular basis, the first time they go, there is confusion. And around them, they can see many energies. And let me tell you what happens. Let's paint a picture. We'll call it the highway of life. Here comes the human into the other side of the veil where they're looking at the highway of life. All the potentials of all of the futures are there. And they're now going to give you channeled information of what's going to happen on the planet. And they see, to their horror, a horrible wreck on the freeway. That's what's happening on the highway of life. Oh, the disappointment, the death, the destruction. And they come back and they say, here's what's going to happen. The channel information says there's going to be a wreck on the freeway. Another goes to the other side of the veil. This one's a little different now. The first one was steeped in 3D. Nothing wrong with that. You are in 3D. But the whole answer that he developed when he saw what he saw was based upon his filters in 3D of what he expected to see and what was most dramatic, you see. The second one goes over. He is more experienced. He's been there many times. He sees the freeway of life. He sees the wreck. But that's not going to fool him. For in 3D, that would be the biggest thing, the most dramatic thing. Instead, he sees what didn't happen over here because somebody made a change. Oh, they swerved to the left or to the right. They changed energies. They made decisions. And the wreck never happened, you see. And that's the potential that rings true with him. And he's going to come back and he said, you know what you're going to have? You're going to have peace on earth. You're going to have the curing of disease on this planet because you made decisions here. That's what I see, you see. Which one of those is right? The answer is they are both right. One of them, however, has the ring of truth. Which brings us to one of the other questions, which we'll get to in a moment. It's going to be question number 6. How can you tell if it's real? But we're not there yet. We're on 4. And so now I have given you the answer of 2 channelers, 2 psychics, 2 prophets, if you wish, going to the other side of the veil, both of them retrieving information which is actually there, bringing it forward and giving it to you. Which one is correct? They both are. Now it's up to you which one rings true, you see. There has been no trickery in this. It is the experience of the channel and what they've done with themselves inside. How interdimensional are they to have removed the 3D filters completely so that they can see the things most apt to happen because of the vibratory rate of the futures compared to the earth. Let me tell you, it's like, again, a tarot reading of the planet where they see the potentials of what the cards' energy lay out. And that's what they're going to bring back. Not the most dramatic. Not the thing that's smoking the most because it's on fire, you see. You get a lot of doom and gloom, don't you? I know this. It must be frightening and fearful. Or you trust the prophets and the channels and they'll go out and bring you information which is frightening and scary, and I'll tell you it's all there. The potentials of what humans might do on this planet has always been frightening and scary. But you've got to walk through that and get to the parts that are remarkable, that are filled with potentials of wisdom. And I return to question 1. Will there be peace on earth? That is what we see. That is what the channel in front of you sees. That is what Kryon sees. Number 5. I'd love to speak of this one. The question has been asked, is there a time of death for the human being which has been appointed? Is there a time when we're going to die? Do we know about it, as the human says, when we come in? We've never spoken of this in this way before. We're going to give you the answer as best we can. When you come in, there is a predisposition. The predisposition has a plan that you have set for yourself, and you can follow it to the end if you want. And yes, it has a death date. And if you do nothing all your life but follow that plan and stay in that groove of predisposition, that's when you're going to die. That's what you laid out for yourself. That is the plan. That is the life lesson. But the human being who understands that they are in control of their destiny moves out of the groove and changes everything. Then there is no predetermined time. And death is when it's ready and appropriate, even though it may not look appropriate to you. Let me tell you, I know who's here. I know the ones who've lost the loved ones. I know the two who have lost a child here. I know who's here. I'll tell you about that in question 7, because you're going to want to know if they're still around, aren't you? I'm going to answer that one too in a moment. But I'll tell you right now, what you do not know, human beings, and do not recognize are the things that didn't happen. Some of you have passed the appointed death time in the old energy because you moved off of the peg, out of the groove, into another direction that took you in a place where you became a spiritual being, a light worker perhaps, a prayer warrior perhaps, one who meditates often perhaps, who has no label at all perhaps, which extended your life and you went right past that pre-appointed place of death. And I want to ask you, did you celebrate it? How many of you are here ready to celebrate the things that did not happen because you made decisions and that traffic accident did not occur? Oh, it's prevalent in this group. Prevalent. Life and death. It's fast. It's instant. Gives and takes in a moment. And so many of you have walked through that and you know those times. So many of you have gone to the dark night of the soul and you've walked through that, and here you are at a meeting like this saying, how can I do more? Oh, that's why we love you. Dear human being, the love of God is here and it's thick tonight. And I'm giving you information that ought to make you celebrate who you are. I'm talking to masters, if they choose to be. Number 6, how can we tell when something's right? Kryon, I've done this and that and this and that. I can't tell which one I'm supposed to do. I listen to a number of channels. I can't decide which one. That's because you're doing it in 3D. Inside you there is an innate sense, a compass, that will tell you when things are accurate or not. And you have to learn to go there. And maybe it's on your knees, and maybe it's when you're quiet, and maybe it's when you're in distress, but you have to learn to go there. And once you have done it, even in distress, and have felt what that is like, and get answers when you need them, you'll be able to go back when you're not in distress. Every day you can go to that place which is quiet and say, Dear Spirit, it is well with my soul. No matter what today, it is well. Tell me what I need to know this day. Push on that interdimensional door, we say, just with your intent, and it will start to flow into you. And you might say, well, I've done that and I don't feel anything. And I will say to you, that's because in 3D you expected an answer right then. How 3D of you. No, you get the answer when you need it. Haven't you figured that out yet? Haven't you figured that out yet? Blessed is the human being who goes to that place in 3D but understands the multidimensional aspects of the answers, of the energy, of the love of God, and is touched when he needs to be touched. And gets the answers when he needs to get the answers. And goes right up to the last possible second, perhaps. And then out comes the channeling of what he is to say, what he's to do. And he celebrates it. And he knows, I got the answer. Throw away those predisposed ideas in 3D of how things must work on the other side of the veil. Because they don't. Or the way God must deal with humans, because that's not the way God deals with humans. It's in an interdimensional way. Don't get off the floor thinking nothing happened. When you send light to a place on this planet, know it went there. You can sit down and say, I'm sending light and I have no idea where it should go. Dear Spirit, send it there. And the cosmic intelligence of the universe will do exactly that. And it'll put upon those places that need it the most. In Israel, in Somalia, in Iraq. Celebrate the light and the things that are joyful on the planet. The proof is within you. It always has been. Start learning to understand this feature. You want to know who is right and who is not. You want to know which one of those prophets had the right or more appropriate answer for the potential of the future. All you do is go inside. It'll ring. It'll sing to you. Learn to feel this. That's the compass. Finally, lastly, number 7. Dear Spirit, I've lost loved ones. Can they still see me? Do they know what I'm doing right now? Do they know I love them? Moms and dads, sisters and brothers, husbands and wives, children. Do they know what I'm doing? Do they know I think about them? Are they here? Last question. Oh yes. Is this confusing? And we've given channels about this before. If it's true, dear human being, that there's no such thing as time, your loved one goes to the other side of the veil. After a period, they come back and they incarnate, which means many of them are back here living human lives in other bodies. And in 3D, you say, well, if they're doing that, that means they can't see me. If they're doing that, that means that I've lost them. They're already on to something else, something bigger. I want to tell you the truth. One higher self for every and all lifetimes you have. In other words, there is one angel, only one angel with your name on it. It was the same higher self angel for every single one of the lifetimes you've had since Lemurian days. And that particular higher self knows all about all of the lives it has collected and is the focal point, is the center of everything. That is the lost loved one. The peace of God, not the human being that you lost, the peace of God that knows of the love that you had for them and that they had for you, who knows of what you did together when you were here as partners on the planet. And so the answer is yes. All of them. For that is part of the Kryon entourage, and that is what some of you feel when I come in. Are the ones, the higher selves are the ones that you've loved and lost, that sit beside you and hold your hand during these times and say, I'm still here. I always will be until the day when you join me. And that is the truth. But it's not the human part. It's the wise, higher self part. It's the God part. But that part knows all, especially about the part of how much you loved him. I don't know how that makes you feel. But perhaps you might take a moment to celebrate it. Perhaps you might even think it's a good thing. What a system, you might say. Perhaps you might just take a moment and say, I see you, I accept you. Thank you for being with me. And then you'll let him walk out the door with you too. It's not just here, it's not just now. It's a beautiful interdimensional system that's been created for human beings to support them in love. That's what it is, that's what it always has been, that's what it's about. And so those are 7 questions. Oh, there'll be 7 more, I'm sure. But not now. Spirit knows your name. Even those who have come here and didn't expect to hear this. I know who you are. For the love of God goes out to all humanity. It knows each of you. What you're about. Loves each one. That is the message of Kryon, and always will be. It's what we told you when we arrived. So much put out by humanity so that you could sit here today. Don't waste this. Spend the 2 minutes a day. Send the light. Make it purposeful. Make it a time that's quiet and alone. Give intent to it, which is divine. And then celebrate it after you've done it. All of you do that every day. What a difference. Sending light to this planet has so many dark places still. I would not say these things if they were not so. I speak to you from the other side of the veil, that place where there's a lot of work being done. And so it is.
Hi everybody, I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon. Hi everybody, I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon.
You've taken in a lot this morning. And if you would allow that to sort of settle towards the back of your mind and just find a quiet place in the front of your mind, begin to breathe into your body, your mind, and your spirit, finding a place where there is peace, where there is an opening, where there is a connection to the field, to the energy, and you feel it around you and you feel it inside of you. And you know that we can build that. We can build on it. And that is why we have these channels, these teachings. That is why the beautiful beings of Adironda and the Council of Light and Kryon come to us from the other side of the veil. They come in service to humanity. And for us, all that we need to do is ready ourselves, is open ourselves, and give ourselves to these few moments when that love, when those messages and the honoring of the human come from across the veil through Adironda and Kryon.
So it is good day to you again. Here we are again in Grand Rapids. We are honored to be here. We know, we see, we sense the emotions are running very high, eh? Yes, the energy is very compressed. It is like you think it could be compact, but it is actually compressed. The energy that is moving through this time, this space, this energy is compressing in upon itself. So now it is so important for you to take measures. steps to keep yourself aligned. And when you keep yourself aligned, dearest divine light plurker, yes, play plus work equals plurk, you are light plurkers, and with that energy, we would ask a few things of you. Is that all right? For us to just ask you to breathe first. We feel your energy. It is high in expectation, wondering what will happen next. We do not believe that anyone can predict exactly what will happen next. There are many, as in Kryon or us, that have gone into the energy of what is happening now and how it will come to pass in the future. However, the predictions are not exact. So, as it is right now, what we are asking you, dearest, is how can you flow through that energy in that slipstream as we talked of yesterday? You see, that slipstream is the flow of the universe moving with your body to help lift it up, to help acknowledge that energy, to help accelerate your flow in that slipstream. So the few things that we would ask for you to do are quite simple. You know what we're going to say, eh? we hear you are going to asking us, well, you know, you're going to say meditate, meditate, meditate. Yes. Set a time to be still. Set a time to be still and to yourself. Now, you can be walking meditation, you can be washing dishes meditation, but it is still a time when your mind is actually still. We like setting a timer for our vessel, Marilyn, because she has 10,000 thoughts running through her mind at any given moment and has a difficult time letting go of time, not to be redundant. But we set a timer for her of 15 or 20 or 30, sometimes an hour, where she just sits and focuses on breathing, or maybe brings in an I am consciousness with the words I am. You can do that for 5 minutes. You can do that for 10. It does not matter the length. What matters is the depth. That time that you invest in yourself, dearest, is time well spent. It increases your immune system. Yes. It lowers your blood pressure. Or if your blood pressure is already low, it accelerates it into alignment that is perfect for you. It allows the stress that is coming at you from sometimes seemingly all directions to be still for a few moments. And that actually lowers the stress. Scientifically, you saw it in the movie, The One Field. That lowers the stress amongst you. So therefore, that reverberates out in the stress for all. It seems simple, doesn't it? To spend 5 or 10 or 15 minutes a day and just breathing. And yet some of you don't do that. Why is that? Is it because you don't have time? You don't take time? It's just because you're so important in other aspects of your life that they will not allow you that 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day just to be with yourself? Well, quite honestly, dearest, we're not buying it. You can't think of any excuse you choose. Write them all down. Write all those excuses down. I don't have time. I've got to take care of the kids, got to get ready for work, got to get in the shower, got to go work out, got to do this, got to do that, got to do this, got to do that. Write all those down. And then read them out loud. And when you do, after each sentence, we want you to say, that's ridiculous. Or better yet, you read them out loud and get your friend after each sentence to say, that's ridiculous. There's only one person that is truly in charge of your time, and that is you. Do you wish to boost your immune system by fear? Do you wish to boost your immune system by watching the news and looking at all of the things that may or may not be true to you? Or do you wish to buy into people's drama stories? Or do you wish to be you? In peace. Start with stillness. Now again, you don't have to sit in the yoga position and with your legs crossed in the lotus position and your hands like this. You can be walking. You can be doing anything as long as it creates a stillness within your mind. And that stillness, for even a few moments, will come back to you 10,000-fold. In being able to acknowledge and understand what is happening in this world today. A while back, many months ago, we said, be prepared. Be prepared for anything. You are the basketball player on the court, pivoting in any direction, huh? Yes, you are. And just as soon as you think you've got things figured out, pivot. That is why it is so important to breathe into that element and flow of the slipstream. That is why you are actually being lifted by that stream of consciousness. And with that stream of consciousness, you are receiving many, many tools. That stream of consciousness is a part of your own innate abilities, your own ability to be of service, your own ability to acknowledge the things that you love. And honestly, dearest, it's time to rearrange those things that you don't love. You see, this world is changing, whether you like it or not. Shift happens, and it is shifting in many different directions. So you get the opportunity to pivot right along with that shift. And as you pivot, you feel yourself being lifted into that slipstream. And as you are lifted, you are expanding your love in your heart. You are expanding that frequency that is you. And by you, dearest light lurker, expanding your frequency as the old soul that you are, bringing forth the wisdom from those ancients, bringing forth the wisdom from the indigenous that you have connected with in your land. Your innate abilities are expanding. Your sensitivities are getting stronger. Your clarification is accelerating. We hear someone say, oh, I don't want that. I don't want to know what's going on. Does that serve you? For by watching the news or this or that, you may still not know what's going on. That is why we are asking you to practice going within and finding that core of your energy that is your intuitive, innate guidance. It does not communicate loudly, so that is why we say go into the stillness. It does not matter if you call it meditation. Maybe you're sitting on your deck and watching the river go by, but you're still. Maybe you're walking around the neighborhood, but you're still. You're going inside asking, what is my next step? Is it directly in front of me? Is it to the side? Is it a step back? How can I be lifted in that slipstream of energy? That's the key, dearest. And as you ask, so shall it be answered. You just simply may get to be still enough to hear that answer or sense that answer. It may not be words. That is the key. That is a bit of what we teach tomorrow. That is the key in stillness. Is not to expect that information to be like any information that you've sensed before. Because it is the information of pure love for you. That may not be common for you. So as you go into that stillness in preparation for these times that are coming, receive that pure love that will indeed enhance the pure potentiality of your innate. That is the promise. We love you deeply. We see you. We know you. We hear you. We honor you. But most of all, we simply love you and bid you namaste. Namaste.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is channel number 3 of 4. The other 2 are very findable, and I would advise to listen to those to better understand this one. The ones that came first set the stage for a series of 4 called The Love Machine. Everything is metaphoric. So many of the messages that we give to you, personal and public, are filled with energies which we have defined as the third language. Messages on messages. Nothing is literal. It's all expansive, dear ones, because the language of spirit is expansive. It's filled with that which is multidimensional and that which has layers of understanding and beautiful. The love machine. Love is that from the Creator. The machine is a word that means there is something that is in progress, in work on this planet, that has an outcome and a reason, parts that move in a succinct way that are logical and respond to the operator, which is you, not spirit. We have said for many, many years that the human brain is not the final organ of logic. It's not where it's all done. That really there is a triad, that the heart and the pineal are involved in all of these things. They have to be. They're the ones that talk to the Akash. They're the ones that recognize the third language. The brain, that's the computer. That's the one that is survival. The ones with the highest intellect are using their pineal, not their brain. The ones who are using the highest intellect are using their intuition, not their brain. The intuition that would say this is correct, this is not correct, or perhaps there's more, and here's what it might look like. We left off on the last channel telling you about the history of the planet, the 200,000 year ago event, where those from the stars came, which became that which is your creation story, your Adam and Eve story. That those who came, you could not tell the difference between those and what you now call angels. You still can't. Because they were ascended beings in charge of the physics around them. They did not need craft to get here. That's three-dimensional thinking. We told you that eventually consciousness allies with physics, and that is mastery. Practiced even today in some of the higher gurus who no longer need to eat. They're here, they're on the planet, they're actually practicing the very things we have told you. They're the forerunners of what you will see someday, is the connection of consciousness and ascension. We told you that Lemuria was the center because it was isolated. It became the center of teaching. But there were many places where the star mothers taught. Lemuria is talked about specially because it was isolated to the degree it was never interfered with. You could never come back to it. And so it was special and purer than the rest. And because of that, it's the only one that had to be then stopped and terminated at a certain point in the teaching area, and that's when it sunk. We've given you this information so many times before that it did not sink because of plate tectonics activity, but because of volcanic activity. The very kinds of things that happened in the country where I sit in Yellowstone happened there. The bubble of magma which had pushed up the mountains subsided. And those left, and that was approximately 15,000 years ago, but it had been teaching for a lot longer than that. The teaching actually began 50,000 years ago. And we talked about why that was so precious too, and why it was needed, just like your children need to be taught. You received souls then, dear ones. That's the Adam and Eve story. That's creation. You received souls. And the whole idea of a tree of knowledge, it had to do with teaching. What was sacred, what was not, how spirit works, what's next, in order to get you to the place where you could start choosing your lives for yourself. You had no Akashic record, none at all. You had really no life experience, none at all. It was the beginning of the beginning. There had to be teaching. Missionaries in certain belief systems understand this, because when they go into tribes, they have to start at the beginning. They have to explain that which is the creative source and all these things that the tribes don't already know. It's just an example of when you have a civilization that literally knows nothing about what you're trying to teach. You have to start at the beginning. The Lemurian teaching wheel was the beginning. There were many wheels and offshoots from that, and we told you that, and we have said that before. But this story starts when Lemuria stops. And what I want to tell you is that the history of this planet for the last 30,000 years has been remarkable and unknown. Almost completely unknown. And so when I talk about it now, and the grandness of it, and the mystery of it, and the numbers of it. It's all new. My partner has taught it. He has indicated things about it. I've channeled about it. But if you have just come upon this channel, this may be brand new to you and very eye-rolling, because it is not represented in any of your history, any of your mainstream science, which has it completely and totally wrong. This doesn't make them uneducated, dear ones, or anything like that. It just means that they're grasping at the straws that they see now. Here is going to be the test of your science. When you start discovering things that do not match the model of what you've been taught, what will you do? Will you quickly bury them in the sand? Or will you be open for a new kind of history? Here's what I want to tell you. This intervention that we have been speaking about has cycles. And the cycles go like this: that each civilization on this planet is given approximately 5,000 years to see if they develop. But there's more, because there's a cycle of consciousness that you don't know about yet. And as the sociologists are only beginning to hint at. And here it is. How long does it take a civilization before it destroys itself? Through either inactivity or war or pandemic? How long does it take? And that is cyclical and has an answer. And sociologists are starting to hint at it. Is there a cycle of humans that they can only last so long before they go into dysfunction? Unless they grow up, unless a consciousness influence happens, how long do they have? It's a good question. I'll give you the answer. 5,125 years. Now, some of you may recognize that number. I'll tell you why in a moment. Here's something that you need to know. There have been 5 civilizations before you on this planet. 5 completely different civilizations before you. You have participated in number 5. If you ask the experts, they will say that civilization as you know it is only 6,000 years old. They will point to the Egyptians as being one of the oldest, the pyramids being 5,000 years old. If you go back a little further with the languages of Sanskrit and cuneiform, you go into the Indus Valley, it's pushing it, but maybe 6,000. And before that, there was nothing. That's foolishness. That's just yours, dear ones. You don't know about the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that. Oh, but you will. Because as your technology improves and gets better, you'll be able to see. They'll be exposed. They're being exposed even now. You find places where you dig down and there are structures that shouldn't be there, built by people who shouldn't have been there, with languages you don't recognize, with geometry that's too good for the time, with alignments to the planets before they are supposed to know even about planets, and you'll have no explanation. Let me give you a little scenario that's kind of fun. The Egyptians, with their 5,000-year-old civilization, one of the temples they built was Abydos. Beautiful. It has things there that no other temple has. They're very proud of that, the age of it, all the history of it, and you go and you visit. But the Egyptians had no idea when they built it on another city, which is now being exposed. Go behind Abydos, if you'd like to, and see another city which has been carbon dated at 10,000 years old. They're not talking about that because it violates everything they've learned and teach in the Cairo University. 6 civilizations. 6? What about 6? You said 5. Well, that's because they all had a time limit and they all failed. Something happened that they had to start again, of their own making or with Gaia's help. And you were scheduled to that too. It was your own schedule. It was your own schedule. You have free choice. Did you read it in your scripture? You weren't going to last after the year 2000. They're going to turn on the lights and everybody was going to go home. That was what was going to happen. It's in your scripture. Read it. That didn't happen. You survived it. None of the others did. And in 2012, interesting, that's when you began number 6. One of the highest civilizations in consciousness that will exist on this planet. What is the duration of the Mayan calendar? 5,125 years. It represented the last civilization. It's part of a divisible by 5 of 26,000-year wobble of the planet. 5 civilizations. Each had their own calendar. Start doing the numbers, you'll start seeing there may be some sense in all of this, especially with what they're finding. I want to close the channel with a plea. I'm not going to explain what the 6 were. Number 6 is you now. What the 5 past ones were or how they came and went. I started and will continue in an island in a beautiful lake in Germany. You can find that channel. It's the only time I've talked about it. But right now, it's just the facts. Here is my plea. Dear ones, so many of you, including the historians, have a bias. And the bias goes like this. That the further off, the further in history you find humans, the less intelligent they are. Until you finally get to the caveman, who you think is grunting to their partner and has no language. Oh, you would be shocked to know that some of these civilizations before yours did better than you're doing, had better mathematics than you do, have figured out things that you haven't. The plea is this: to look at history differently and know that as far back as you can find civilization, you will find people just like you, thinking just like you, as smart as you are. They didn't have the inventions you have, and that's the only difference. They did things that you're doing today without them. Sometimes they were even smarter. They had elegant museums. They had libraries. They had their own ways. They had orality. They knew so much about so much, and it was lost every single time they started again. You're going to find some of those things, and you're not going to understand it because of the bias that says, well, they couldn't have been that smart. Oh, yes, they were. They were much smarter than you were in many areas. They were not impressed with having 10 fingers and toes like you were. Their math was based 4 instead of 5. You only have 2 factors in your math. They had more than 4. They were able to let the math speak to them and give them an elegance you still haven't seen. They knew how not to overpopulate their area. You haven't figured that out yet. There are so many things that they could teach you if you could talk to them. Oh, but you were them, dear ones. It's in your Akash. That will start being remembered as well. Remembering the things that worked, the ideas to come, and that's the next channel. What's next? In number 6, where you are now. You sit in a reboot where you can get to know each other better, where things are starting to examine themselves and things are starting to crawl out of the corners of blackness and show themselves. So you'll see what you don't want anymore. Solutions are afoot to problems that have been with you for hundreds of years. We'll talk about that next. The history of humanity is far grander than you know, older than you think, beautiful.
And someday you'll be studying it in this way. You can't help it. It won't be esoteric. You can hold it in your hand when you start digging. Some of it has survived very well and been preserved. You just haven't seen it yet, but you will. All of the things I tell you now come to a grand conclusion. And the next channel talks about it and who you really are. The only civilization so far on this planet not to have destroyed themselves after 5,125 years and are standing at the cusp of what's next that other planets have seen and gone to. And that's why I'm here, to celebrate and help and to begin to work with the nodes and the nulls that are starting to push grandness onto this planet. Higher consciousness will be the result. I'll be back. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon.